Good morning, students. Welcome to today's English lesson. Today, we're going to make a reading activity. The title of the reading is Animals on the Move. We're going to watch a video in order to introduce the topic and also introduce what is going to be the reading about. Okay, so let's look up the video.
Salmon spend years in the ocean and then return to the rivers where they were born. When young, these sockeye salmon had migrated towards the sea in search of food. However, as the day shortens, their instincts impel them to return to their birthplace. Thousands of salmon congregate near the coastline from all over the expansive Pacific Ocean. Then they proceed towards the estuaries of the rivers of Alaska. Their resolve to find their way home when it is time for them to reproduce is one of the most remarkable and mysterious feats of nature. It is believed that the sun and the Earth's magnetic field help them in navigation. The incredible precision of their journey is fascinating. Their bodies have to adjust to the fresh waters as they travel upstream. An amazing adventure beckons them. Not all will be able to complete this journey. Several die of exhaustion and are eaten by scavengers like eels. However, the rapids and waterfalls of the swift-flowing Alaskan rivers provide them with their biggest challenge. The salmon can jump 12 feet up the waterfalls through exceptional effort. Grizzly bears assemble at the rivers, eagerly awaiting the salmon's expected return, and the salmon do not disappoint. For the skilled grizzly, they're an easy meal. The younger bears, though, have a tough time catching the slippery fish. Unfortunately, many salmon lose their lives at this stage. It is caviar for the bears, but the death of these eggs marks an abrupt end to the future of the salmon. Several of them are successful in escaping these predators and continue with their 1,000-mile journey. As the rivers converge and the waters become shallow, their sharp sense of smell guides them to the breeding grounds where they were born. The urge to procreate motivates these fish to overcome the relentless force of the current as they continue on their extraordinary mission. The salmon also become easy targets to aerial predators due to the shallow waters. Just prior to spawning, the sockeye salmon undergo striking changes in their colour and shape. The male's jaws transform and grow a vicious set of teeth. They have to compete with each other to win the right to the best females. Once paired, the female digs a shallow nest on the riverbed before laying her eggs. The male then fertilizes them. Having mated, finally, thousands of heavily fatigued salmon now perish in these waters. The adventure is over. The sockeye salmon die in the very same riverbeds that they were born in.
So, according to the video, we can see that the salmon, the Pacific salmon to be more specific, makes a long journey in order to breathe. They try to, in this case, to move on to or to go back to the place where they were. Ellos regresan al lugar prácticamente en donde nacieron. They go back to the river. Okay? They travel from the Pacific Ocean to the river in order to breathe, con la finalidad de reproducirse. In that migration, they have to survive. They try to find out also food, and also they are searching for food constantly. Okay, so we're gonna talk about that topic today in the reading. We're gonna talk about animals on the move. Vamos a hablar de los animales que se mueven constantemente o que básicamente los animales que realizan migraciones. We're gonna have in this case some keywords about the reading. For example, we're gonna have escape, avoid, hibernate, search, survive. Escape. When animals migrate, they have to escape from predators. Tienen que escapar en esta ocasión de los depredadores. So, in that way, they try to survive. Ellos tratan de sobrevivir. And also they have to avoid bigger animals, tienen que tratar de evitar animales mucho más grandes y también algunos riesgos. Other animals, they hibernate. They usually don't move on to another place when the seasons change, cuando las estaciones cambian o cuando el clima no está tan favorecedor para algunos animales. En el caso de los osos, ellos hibernan. ¿Okay? Y también una de las finalidades por las cuales ellos realizan las migraciones es que buscan mejores condiciones de vida. Eso vamos a ver posteriormente en el caso de otros animales. So they search for food. Ellos buscan comida, ¿correcto? Now, here we have more keywords. Vegetation. This is one of the reasons why animals usually migrate. Esa es una de las principales razones por las cuales migran, because they are looking for food. Ellos buscan comida. Usualmente, when the weather conditions change, cuando las condiciones climáticas cambian y no son tan favorecedoras como podemos observar en la imagen, la vegetación se cubre. Por lo tanto, se cubre por nieve, por el mismo clima. Por lo tanto, ellos tratan de buscar comida, buscar vegetación en otro mejor lugar. Aparte de ello, como vimos en el video, en el caso del salmón, este animal realiza su gran viaje, realiza estas migraciones con la finalidad de reproducirse. They breathe in the river. Ellos se reproducen en el río. And after the long journey, después de todo ese viaje largo, they die because they are too exhausted and also too tired after all the race that they have. Okay, here we have another keyword, migrate. This is a land migration. Esta es una migración que se realiza por tierra. Cabe recalcar que hay migraciones que se realizan por el aire, por la tierra y por supuesto por el agua. Okay, by land, by water. Okay, do you know of any animals that travel great distances? For example, birds. They are so famous because they usually migrate. Another animals, as we can see in the video, it's the salmon, for example. We're going to read about that. Okay, so let's pay attention. Okay, so here we have the reading, Animals on the Move, Love-Trusting Animals. The animal kingdom is full of amazing stories of long-distance travel. Here are just a few examples of animals that really go the distance. Okay, vamos a ver algunos ejemplos, algunos animales los cuales realmente se van largas distancias para poder realizar lo que es su mismo instinto, lo que la naturaleza les ordena. Algunos por reproducción, otros por buscar mejores condiciones climáticas u otros simplemente por buscar comida. Okay, now let's read.
Arctic tern. This bird can fly over 36,000 kilometers every year, from the Arctic Circle in the north, all the way down to Antarctica and back again. Arctic terns migrate to the South Pole in the winter to find a warmer climate. The young birds are shown the way only once. Then they have to make the return trip alone. Pacific salmon. Salmon have the hardest journey. When it's time to breed, they leave the ocean and return to the river where they were born. They have to swim upstream, sometimes through polluted waters or up waterfalls. Throughout this journey, they have to avoid both fishermen and predators. However, not all the salmon complete the journey, and the ones that do die soon after breeding because they're exhausted.
Okay, so here we have two examples, the Arctic tern and the Pacific salmon. For example, what does Arctic tern migrate? ¿Por qué ellos migran? Okay, podemos observar que ellos realizan uno de los viajes más largos. So the Arctic tern in this case, makes one of the longest and also biggest travel. You can say that. So they can fly over 36,000 kilometers every year from the Arctic Circle in the north. Okay, so Arctic terns in this case migrate in the winter to find a warmer climate. Entonces, they migrate to find better weather conditions. Ellos migran para encontrar mejores condiciones climáticas. Muy bien. The Pacific salmons. Why do they migrate? Ellos migran because it's time to breed. Es tiempo de reproducirse. Okay, so they leave the ocean and return to the river, como pudimos observar en el video. Okay, so in this case, the journey they have to avoid, tienen que evitar both fishermen and predators. Tienen que evitar a los pescadores y también a los depredadores. So in this case, not all the salmon complete the journey. The ones that do die soon after breeding because they are exhausted. The journey is too long. Here we have more. Okay.
Rocky Mountain elk. In the summer months, Rocky Mountain elk live high in the mountains. When heavy snow falls in the winter, it covers all the vegetation. None of the elk can survive these conditions, so they all move down the mountain. In spring, the snow melts, and the elk climb up the mountain, and the cycle continues. Polar bears. Many species of bear hibernate during the winter to escape the cold weather. Polar bears live in the freezing Arctic, but have got no problem with the cold. They travel long distances searching for food. Sometimes this search can cover an area twice as big as Iceland.
Okay, so we have here the Rocky Mountain elk. In this case, why do they migrate? ¿Por qué ellos migran en esta ocasión? They migrate when heavy snow falls in the river. Cuando la nieve básicamente falls in the winter, in this case, cae en el invierno. It covers all the vegetation. Va a cubrir toda la vegetación, por lo tanto cubre toda su comida. So, no of the elk can survive these conditions. Ningún animal básicamente puede sobrevivir en estas condiciones y mucho menos sin comida. So they all move down the mountain. Ellos bajan la montaña. In the spring, the snow melts. En la primavera, la nieve se derrite. And the elk climb up the mountain. Y el elk otra vez vuelve a subir la montaña. ¿Ok? Y este ciclo continúa. En invierno, in the winter, in this case, they move down the mountain. And in spring, they climb up the mountain. Básicamente, este animal migra a causa de la comida, ¿ok? La comida y el cambio climático. On the other side, polar bears, They don't have problems with the weather. Ellos no tienen problemas en esta ocasión con el clima because in this case they don't escape from the cold. Ellos no escapan del frío. Muy bien, al menos esta especie. Recordemos que otras especies, many species of birds hibernate. Muchas especies sí llegan a hibernar, pero ellos no. ¿Ok? Pero ¿por qué en esta ocasión ellos migran o realizan estos movimientos? They travel long distances searching for food. Buscando comida. Muy bien. Okay, now let's answer some questions. Plants in general. Las plantas en general. ¿A qué estaríamos refiriéndonos? Plants in general, what is the keyword? Vegetation, right? Okay, look for. Look for, vamos a encontrarlo en la información que nos habla de talk about polar bears. Look for es un sinónimo en este caso de searching for food. Okay, so let's remember, look for es un sinónimo de search. Spend the winter in a deep sleep, pasar el invierno durmiendo. Es lo que otras especies de osos hacen. ¿Qué era? ¿Cuál será la palabra clave? Hibernate, right, correcto. So we have here hibernate. Produce young ones, producir nuevos. En esta ocasión vamos a encontrar la información en the Pacific Salmon. Recordemos que el verbo y una de las palabras claves que les di al inicio es breed. Entonces vamos a hablar de reproducirse. An animal that kills and eats other animals. ¿Qué tipo de animal es? Es un depredador. In English, predator. Here we have the information. Throughout this journey, they have to avoid both fishermen and predators. The next one, continue to live. Continuar viviendo o try to live, tratar de vivir. En otras palabras, ¿qué es lo que hacen los animales en la vida salvaje? They survive, tratan de sobrevivir. A place where a stream or a river falls from a high place. Son unas cascadas. We're going to have in this case waterfalls. Move from one part of the world to another according to the season. Cuando los animales se mueven de un lugar a otro de acuerdo a la estación, esto es uno de los principales temas. In this case, they migrate. So we have here migrate. Okay, so dear students, that's going to be all for today. We're going to continue working on the next class. Bye and take it aloud.